Slarvok, the relentless, supreme strategist of the Galactic Empire, admired the neat pattern of destruction displayed across the holographic star map. Earth's defense satellites were blinking out like birthday candles in a vacuum. He folded his 4 lower arms behind his back, antennae twitching with self-satisfaction. "Transmission incoming," droned the comms officer, a pale, quivering exoform named Trilm. "From the humans." The bridge fell into hush. Even the semi-sentient wall panel paused its ambient hum. Slarvok grinned. "Ah, their surrender already? How predictably quaint. Let's hear it." The message came through a grainy video feed, an old Earth signal, laced with static, punctuated by the hiss of primitive tech. A human male appeared, his voice echoing through the ship's vast bridge. "This is President Monroe of the United Terran Assembly. We acknowledge your hostile actions. As per Article 7B of the Cosmic Conflict Charter, we are deploying a human diplomat to negotiate your immediate withdrawal." The bridge burst into laughter. Slarvok let it run. The idea that humans, these caffeine-addled, chaos-loving apes, would dare to answer planetary incineration with a diplomat was too rich. He almost applauded their courage. Or was it stupidity? "What kind of diplomat?" asked one of the junior tacticians, trying to wipe mirth tears from his faceplates. Trilm squinted at the decryption data. "A female. Human. Designation, Laura Blackstone. No military history. Former occupation, a divorce attorney." Silence. "Then, did they just send a lawyer to fight a war?" someone whispered. "No," Slarvok said, his voice tight. "They sent a divorce lawyer. That's concerning." But no one dared speak the truth. Not yet. The Imperial dread cruiser Ulsvar's grasp remained in low orbit above Earth's moon, flanked by the Death Fleet's best. 3 assault moons, 2 warp-forged dreadnoughts, and 1,000 drone skirmishers. Each ship bore scars from wars that had turned stars to cinders. Each was ready. So when the diplomatic shuttle, a laughably small vessel shaped like a 20th century Earth toaster, approached, the fleet's guns didn't even warm. The docking procedure was unnecessarily smooth. She wanted them to be comfortable. Too comfortable. The airlock hissed open. And there she was. Laura Blackstone stepped out wearing business slacks, a navy blue blazer with gold buttons, and a pair of red pumps that clicked menacingly across the Durasteel floor. Her lipstick matched the blood-red folders under her arm. One hand clutched a styrofoam cup that read, "If you can read this, you're too close." "All right, which one of you is in charge?" she said, scanning the silent row of alien guards with a raised brow. One guard, 7 feet of scaled muscle, swallowed audibly. "Slarvok awaits in the throne. A command chamber, Your Honor." "Your Honor," she blinked. "You boys think I'm a judge? That's adorable." As she walked, her words echoed down the corridor like whip cracks. "I want full diplomatic access, hot water for tea, and if anyone touches my briefcase, I will bury them in procedural appeals so fast they'll forget which galaxy they're from." The guards scurried ahead. Slarvok watched her enter, standing at the far end of the vast chamber beneath an arched obsidian ceiling. Torches flickered. War trophies hung from chains, bones of ancient enemies, shattered armor from a dozen fallen races. Laura raised one brow. "Charming decor. Bit murdery, but I get the vibe." "You are Laura Blackstone," Slarvok said carefully. He stepped forward. "You are alone." "I'm never alone," she said, sipping her drink. "I have legal precedent." He hesitated. She looked small, fragile even. But he had once seen a small creature called a badger rip out the throat of a Zorlak warhound. Appearances were misleading. Humans, most of all. "I demand you withdraw from Terran space," she said, removing a glossy folder marked "Ceasefire Proposal." Draft A angry tone. Slarvok laughed, low and mechanical. "You misunderstand, Terran. This is not a negotiation. It is conquest." Laura pulled out a pen and clicked it once. A high-pitched sound echoed through the chamber. Some of the weaker guards whimpered. One fainted. "I'm not here to negotiate either," she said. "I'm here to deliver options. You can surrender now, face limited reparations, and only minor public humiliation. Or you can continue, and I'll release the full audit we compiled on your empire. He blinked. Audit. Laura's smile was cold. You violated 12 interstellar trade agreements, 24 war crime clauses, and this one's my favorite. You've illegally downloaded copyrighted Terran media on 3,000 channels. Slarvok's eye stalks twitched. That cannot be. I have receipts. She flipped a page. You streamed Full House on unauthorized bandwidth, Emperor. Gasps rang out. One general collapsed. That's impossible, Slarvok rasped. No one knows that. We wiped those logs. Earth has people called IT guys. You don't mess with them. Slarvok stumbled back a step. And, Laura said, voice rising, you've made one fatal miscalculation. You assumed humans fight with guns, missiles, and fists. But we have something far worse. Her fingers danced through her briefcase. She produced a thick, glowing, spiral-bound document. This is an interstellar class action lawsuit filed on behalf of the 42 species you've bullied, burned, and badgered. It's signed, notarized, and filed under the Earth Legal Offensive Network, Elon. Elon, Slarvok croaked. Named after our ancient tech warlord. Don't ask. It's complicated. Behind Laura, the air shimmered. A portal blinked open. Not soldiers, not tanks, attorneys. Dozens of them, human and alien alike, in tailored suits, adjusting ties and glasses. Each held a clipboard like it was a dagger. Slarvok's mandibles clacked in terror. They're here to watch, Laura whispered. To witness. To document. A bead of moisture, unthinkable for a commander of his rank, formed at the edge of his ocular gland. Laura stepped closer, voice a dagger in silk. This is your only warning, darling. Surrender now, or by tomorrow morning, we'll have frozen your assets, revoked your fleet's licenses, and banned your empire from attending any intergalactic raves for the next 3 centuries. Silence. Not a breath. Not a hum. I will require time, Slarvok stammered. You have 7 Earth minutes, she said. I suggest you use them wisely. She turned and left the chamber, hips swaying, heels clicking, not looking back. Once gone, the room erupted in chaos. What do we do? One general whispered. She knows about the media piracy, another sobbed. That's a Class 4 cultural violation. She has the lawyers, someone gasped. She has... Elon, a junior admiral moaned. Slarvok stared at the doorway, where she had vanished, the taste of defeat thick on his tongue. She is not a diplomat, he said, voice hollow. She is an extinction-level event. Far across the bridge, a signal light began to blink. Earth was waiting for their response. Slarvok walked slowly toward the console and reached for the white flag protocol. Wordlessly, he initiated surrender procedures. Because he finally understood what the humans had done. They hadn't sent a warrior. They had sent Laura. And Laura always won. He looked up as the surrender codes transmitted. May the stars help us all. The moment Laura Blackstone's red pumps disappeared from the throne room, a hushed panic gripped the Empire's highest command. Officers stared at one another like condemned souls awaiting the judge's gavel. No alarms were triggered. No weapons were drawn. They didn't need to be. The fear wasn't of violence. It was of her. Slarvok stood silently as the walls of his grand chamber dimmed. He waved a trembling claw at the nearest console. Open the archive, he muttered. Specify file. The computer responded with mechanical indifference. Slarvok's voice dropped to a whisper, the name heavy in his mandibles. Blackstone. Laura. The command center darkened. A ring of light formed around the central dais, flickering as dozens of files loaded. Each was tagged with security clearance markings, so high they were usually only used for wormhole destabilization procedures or forbidden time loop research. The room's temperature dropped. Accessing Blackstone dossier. Warning, psychological distress may occur. Proceed. Yes, Slarvok growled. They need to see. One by one, holograms lit up. A 3-dimensional image of a weeping chitinous figure flickered to life. Testimony. Admiral Krull of the Yuzari Fleet. Earth year 2183. The image twitched. She made me cry, the alien rasped. Krull had been known as the Butcher of the Eastern Rim, a terror even among warlords. His ships had reduced 13 moons to rubble, subjugated 2 empires. But now, in this recording, he clutched a mug of hot tea and trembled in a rocking chair. She wore a blue suit, he whimpered. Kept adjusting it while she talked, like I wasn't even worth her eye contact. And then she told me my entire campaign was pathetically compensating for unresolved childhood issues. He broke into sobs. She wasn't even wrong. Another hologram rose beside him. This one wore a high-ranking diplomatic insignia, though his ceremonial robes were badly stained with what appeared to be ice cream. Statement: Ambassador Narok of the Galactic Enclave. She came to the negotiation table with no guards, he said, voice shaking. Just this awful binder. Purple. Bedazzled with glitter. I thought it was some primitive display of power. It wasn't. It was worse. It was her case file. The ambassador visibly recoiled at the memory. She flipped to page 1. Page 1, mind you. And she detailed every political misstep our enclave had committed since the year 1924, on our own calendar. How did she even have that data? She quoted my grandmother's wedding speech. Then she told me I should be ashamed of our imperial posturing, and called me a cosmic gaslighter in ceremonial drapes. Slarvok watched his subordinates absorb each terrifying testimony. She filed sanctions on our economic hub mid-meeting. Nara continued. Mid-meeting. And what happened to the Gulavrax? Asked one of the younger command officers. The ambassador's image paused. We signed over 3 systems. And we sent her home with 10 crates of chocolate. I don't even know what chocolate is. Another hologram activated without prompting. Testimonial. High General Porth of the Lacarii swarm. Porth's voice was raspier, colder. He was a creature made of metallic exoskeletons, each plated with genetically fused armor. He had once fought in the acidic seas of Dran, for without a suit. She invaded us with a cease and desist letter, he said. She showed up alone. Said something about non-compliance penalties. We thought it was a joke. Then she pulled out the Annex Clause. Even Slarvok flinched at that. Annex Clause. Triln asked. The one buried in the Galactic Trade Nexus Agreement, Slarvok muttered. The one with the loophole about voluntary admission into protectorate status. She convinced us, Porth said, that by attacking her, we had already agreed to become a client state under Terran jurisdiction. She submitted the paperwork before the battle even began. But how? A general demanded. How can one human woman, a lawyer, cause collapses like these? The chamber pulsed again. A new feed emerged. Not a testimonial. Footage. Laura Blackstone. Live. Raw. She stood in a council chamber on the planet Tharn, surrounded by armored guards and spiny diplomats. I see your empire prides itself on strength, she said with a polite smile. So let me tell you a little about my childhood. The room stilled. I grew up in Newark. My mom was a Bronx librarian. My dad ran a corner deli and swore like a sailor with bronchitis. I survived 4 siblings, 2 breakups, a bar exam, and 1 apartment with a raccoon in the wall. So you'll excuse me if I'm not impressed by your pointy shoulder pads and moody lighting. The council didn't speak. Now, unless you'd like a very detailed explanation of exactly how many zoning violations exist in this chamber right now, she said, gesturing to the gilded walls, I suggest we move on to how much of your military budget you're willing to reallocate for civilian restoration. The footage paused. A static buzz filled the silence. She humiliated them. Made them beg, Slarvok whispered. They gave her their flagship. Named a street after her. She never once raised a weapon. One of the newer officers leaned forward. Why didn't we know this? Slarvok turned, his voice bitter. Because we dismissed Earth as weak. We thought only of their weapons, not their weapons-grade personalities. More images lit up. A star map charted Laura's path through a dozen systems. In each case, the pattern was the same. No ships, no battles, just one shuttle and one very prepared human woman. Treaties, settlements, and peace documents followed in her wake like the tail of a comet. They say she once turned 2 warring planets into an interstellar honeymoon destination, Slarvok said. They say she convinced a sentient fungus to give up its expansionist agenda by threatening to get it listed as a health hazard on Yelp. Triln added quietly. They say, another voice chimed in, that the word Laura now means ceasefire in 6 languages. The chamber dimmed again. All eyes turned to Slarvok. He sighed. You all want to know why she's so effective? It's not just the legal training. Not the wit. It's that she understands chaos. More than that, she uses it. He stepped forward. Humans are unpredictable, illogical. They fight over coffee brands and hug exploding machines they call pets. They argue with their technology, name their cars, and insult each other with affection. She channels that madness. She doesn't suppress it. She weaponizes it. He gestured toward the archive, where we have protocols and chains of command. She has gut instinct and audacity. And it works. Then we're doomed, Triln said softly. Slarvok's antennae twitched. No, he said. Not doomed. Not if we adapt. She hasn't won yet. But she has, another general muttered. She walked in with a cup of earth liquid and a binder. We've already surrendered. The silence that followed wasn't agreement, it was resignation. But not from Slarvok. He stared at the last file in the archive. A final recording. Never played. He activated it. The image was grainy. An Earth psychologist, one of their elite mind readers, spoke into the camera. If you're receiving this, the man said, it means you've encountered Laura Blackstone. You're probably scared. That's normal. We are too. The psychologist leaned in. But here's the thing, she's not cruel. Not violent. She could be. But she chooses something else. She chooses to make people see the ridiculousness of their own power. That's her gift. And her curse. Because once you see it, you can't go back. The feed cut out. The room stayed silent. Slarvok took a breath. He knew now why Earth sent her. Not as a weapon, but as a message. The humans weren't just defending their planet. They were showing the galaxy what they could do with nothing more than attitude, legal acumen, and unresolved personal trauma. He closed the archive. Prepare the envoy, he said. Envoy. Triln blinked. We're sending someone back. We're not surrendering, Slarvok said. Not yet. She gave us 7 minutes. That means we've got 6 to formulate a counteroffer. The room stirred. What kind of counteroffer can survive Laura Blackstone? Slarvok narrowed his eyes. One she won't expect. One not made with pride or fear. One made with transparency. The room collectively flinched. It was a foreign word in imperial halls. She wants honesty, Slarvok said. So we'll give it to her. And in that moment, something shifted, not in fear, but in understanding. Because for the first time in the Empire's long, tyrannical history, they weren't dealing with a military adversary. They were dealing with a human. And humans didn't play by the galaxy's rules. They brought their own. Laura Blackstone, somewhere deep within the command ship's guest quarters, sipped her tea and flipped through her notes. She didn't need guards. She didn't need backup. She had experience, caffeine, and enough sarcasm to defuse an orbital bomb. She glanced at her wristwatch and smirked. 2 minutes left. She tapped her pen against the binder's corner and leaned back in her chair. There was a knock at the door. Come in, she said. An alien aide entered, holding a glowing data slate and a trembling smile. The supreme strategist requests a second audience. With a revised position. Laura's grin widened just enough to be dangerous. Good, she said. Let's chat. And somewhere in the back of her mind, she hoped they were smarter than they looked. Because the truth was, Laura Blackstone didn't want war. But she would win one, armed only with high heels, sarcasm, and a terrifyingly well-organized binder. Slarvok entered the negotiation chamber slower than usual, arms behind his back, posture stiff with restraint. The warlord in him wanted to scream orders and detonate a nearby moon just to re-establish dominance. The smarter part, frighteningly louder these days, knew that if he raised his voice even slightly, Laura Blackstone might file a noise violation and trigger punitive sanctions across 12 systems. She was already seated, legs crossed, elbows propped on the negotiation table like it was just another Monday at the office. The table itself had been constructed hastily out of repurposed ceremonial plating, and the high-backed chairs had been pulled from the imperial dining hall. Laura looked around as if critiquing a bad Yelp review. "This your idea of ambience?" she asked. "I've had root canals with more charm." She reached into her purse and pulled out a small cylindrical object, placing it on the table. It extended into a retro earth lava lamp that began bubbling immediately. Slarvok blinked. "What is that?" "Comfort item," she said, eyes never leaving him. "Soothes the nerves. Helps me avoid catastrophic sarcasm." He tried not to look at the lava. It had an oddly hypnotic pull. Behind Slarvok stood his top 3 advisors, Fleetmaster Droll, Economic Overseer Geltrax, and Propaganda Lord Serene, each of whom had already been briefed on what Laura Blackstone was capable of. Each wore the haunted expression of someone who'd watched an asteroid collision in slow motion. A diplomatic AI, hovering nearby, offered translation services. Laura declined. "I speak 12 languages," she said casually, uncapping a pink gel pen. "And sarcasm in all of them." She tapped her notebook labeled Operation, stopped the stupid, and flipped it open to page 1. The cover featured a glitter sticker of a kitten wielding a judge's gavel. "Let's begin," she said. Slarvok forced a breath. "We have reviewed the terms you presented. They are extreme." Laura nodded. "Good. That was the vibe I was going for." Demanding the disarmament of half our Navy and conversion of battleships into humanitarian relief carriers is not optional, she interrupted. "That's the word you were hunting." Fleetmaster Droll bristled. "You do not dictate terms to an empire." "I don't," she agreed. "The laws you violated do." Geltrax stepped forward, datapad in hand. "We are willing to negotiate a partial compliance arrangement." Laura held up one finger. Geltrax stopped mid-sentence. "You see this pen?" she asked, brandishing it. "Do you know what happens when I press this button?" "No," Geltrax said warily. "It saves," she said. "It saves everything you just admitted. It uploads it to 3 Earth-based legal servers and 1 very enthusiastic Reddit thread. And trust me, you do not want to be trending on Earth's internet right now. You'll be turned into a meme before lunch." Slarvok cleared his throat. "Are you threatening us with viral exposure?" "No," she said, smiling slightly. "I'm promising you that's the best-case scenario." She leaned forward. "Now I know this is hard. You're not used to people telling you no. You're used to conquering planets and rewriting histories. But I have all the receipts. And more importantly, I have a legally binding treaty signed by 37 other species ready to back Earth if I say you flinched." Droll narrowed his eyes. "So you're not just representing Earth." "I'm representing the fed up," she replied. "The people who are tired of empires with daddy issues torching their homes for fun." Geltrax whispered to Slarvok, "This tone, it's not diplomacy. It's performance art." "She's from a place called New Jersey," Serene said, pale. "Their entire culture is built on confrontation and baked goods." Laura adjusted her chair and opened a second binder. This one was labeled Clause-Based Psychological Warfare and tabbed with color-coded sections. "Now," she said brightly, "let's talk about your empire's public relations budget. I noticed you're spending 10 billion credits on propaganda songs, but only 400,000 on education. That's a bold move." Serene bristled. "Our music videos are culturally vital." "Your last anthem," she said, flipping a page, "was a dubstep remix of your Emperor growling. That's not culture. That's an identity crisis." Slarvok sighed. "You aim not to humiliate us, but to unmake us." "No," she said, her voice quiet now. "I aim to make you better. And the only way to do that is to make you feel exactly how every world under your boots has felt for the last 2 centuries." She closed the binder softly. Small, powerless, exhausted. The silence stretched. For the first time in decades, Slarvok didn't have a retort. No counter-threat. No retaliatory plan. Laura reached into her bag and retrieved a lunch container. She unwrapped it carefully and bit into a sandwich. "You're eating?" Droll asked, scandalized. "Negotiation makes me peckish," she said through a mouthful. "Plus, I didn't want to be hangry. That's how systems get obliterated." The AI translator attempted to process the term. Hangry. A human emotional state triggered by simultaneous hunger and rage. Classified as high threat. Laura sipped from her thermos. Now, if we're done pretending you have leverage, I'd like to walk you through the part where you apologize. We will never apologize to a human. Droll shouted. Laura opened yet another binder. This one was smaller, sleeker. The label read, Petty Folder. She held up a page containing a screenshot. What is that? Serene asked. That, Laura said, is your fleet commander's private social feed, where he refers to Slarvok as Sklardork in a thread from 3 weeks ago. Slarvok turned his head sharply toward Droll. I was hacked, Droll stammered. Laura held up another page. Oh, and this is the leaked footage of your last battle drill, where your drone fleet accidentally destroyed your own decoy satellites because someone forgot to switch off demo mode. Geltrax closed his eyes. This is indecent. This is diplomacy, she said cheerfully. Earth style. Slarvok slumped slightly. What do you want? Full disarmament within 12 months. Restitution payments to all previously occupied systems. Reclassification of Earth as a Tier 1 political entity. And she smiled again. This one was purely mischievous. A public video of you apologizing. No, Serene whispered. Anything but that. Laura shrugged. Then I guess I'll just have to forward this little slideshow to the Intergalactic Committee. She pressed a button on her thermos. The wall behind her came alive with a PowerPoint presentation titled, Why You Suck, a comprehensive audit of the Galactic Empire's poor decisions. Slide 1. Your uniforms look like discount Halloween costumes. Slide 2. Fleet formation, more like cosmic bowling pins. Slide 3. Your Emperor's title is 8 words long. Calm down. By slide 6, Slarvok looked physically ill. Laura closed the presentation and sat back. You have a choice. 1. You cooperate. 2. You continue this charade, and I go full courtroom TV on you. We've already optioned the rights for a drama series. She passed over a document. Slarvok stared at it. What is it? He asked hoarsely. An apology card, she said, with glitter pens. Signed by each of your top officials, addressed to the people you've oppressed. We'll film it. Run it on all networks. Bonus points if you choke up a little. Serene's claws twitched. You want us to surrender our dignity? No, she replied. I want you to earn forgiveness. You've already surrendered everything else. Slarvok's lower arms unclasped. He took the pen from her fingers. He hated that it was sparkly. I hope you know, he said quietly, that history will remember this as humiliation. She met his eyes. Only if you don't learn from it. And for the first time since the battle began, not in space, but in words, he believed she might be right. As he signed, the room changed. Not physically, but atmospherically. The Empire had turned a page. Not because of war, but because of her. The surrender was not loud. It was not televised. It was not even officially declared. But it happened. With a click of a pen and the hum of a glitter lava lamp. When the signatures were complete, Laura tucked the apology card into her binder, sealed it with a neon pink sticker that read, Thanks for trying, and stood. Well then, she said, that's lunch. She turned and walked out without ceremony, humming the theme from the X-Files as she went. Slarvok watched her go, unsure if he had just saved his people or doomed them to bake sales and community service. Geltrax stepped beside him. She beat us. Slarvok nodded. She didn't even raise her voice, Serene said. She didn't have to, Droll added. She knew. Slarvok exhaled, defeated but strangely relieved. She didn't come to destroy us. She came to fix us, in the most condescending way possible. He looked down at the signature card, now shimmering under the lava lamp's light. And for the first time, he wondered what Earth could teach the galaxy, if they ever stopped underestimating it. Outside, Laura stepped onto her ship's ramp, smiling as the Imperial Guards opened the hatch with unexpected deference. A junior officer saluted her. We hope to never see you again. Laura winked. Likewise. She boarded the shuttle, lava lamp still bubbling beside her. As it launched, Slarvok stood on the bridge, watching the trail vanish into the stars. "She left us our dignity," he said softly. "She left us with glitter," Serene muttered. "Yes," Slarvok nodded, "but also a future." And the fleet, once poised to erase Earth from the stars, now stood down, not from fear of weapons, but because one human woman had made them feel the most terrifying force in the universe. Accountability. Laura Blackstone's shuttle sliced through the void like a bored commuter's sedan, utterly unimpressed by the empire she had just humbled. She leaned back in her seat, popped off her heels with a groan, and wiggled her toes. The Galactic transmission feed was already lighting up with alerts. She hadn't even reached Earth orbit yet. Her assistant, a junior Terran envoy named Raj, greeted her as she stepped off the platform in Earth's diplomatic docking station. "You're early," Raj said, startled, holding a welcome back sign that read, "Laura, please tell us you didn't start another lawsuit." "I didn't," she said, handing him her glittery apology card like a prized artifact. "They started it. I just corrected the tone." "Did they cry?" "A little. There was tremble laughing. It counts." Raj walked beside her as she crossed the corridor to the debrief dome. "You should know," he said, voice dropping to a near whisper, "You're trending." She sighed. "What is it this time?" He pulled up his datapad. "There's a viral remix of your Why You Suck PowerPoint. It's charting on 3 different planets' pop stations. Somebody added auto-tune to your slide transitions." Laura stopped mid-stride. "Tell me they used the lava lamp footage." "They used the lamp as the visualizer." She muttered, "Of course they did." In the days that followed, the Galactic Empire's official surrender became a circus of half-hearted excuses and desperate image rehabilitation. But it was too late. The moment had gone hyperviral. Clips of Laura sliding the glitter apology card across the table played on loop across 1,000 systems. Subtitled in over 400 languages, the video was reposted, remixed, and reinterpreted. A puppet show version was performed on the Xantari moon stage. Someone deepfaked the scene with dancing alien cats. One extremist channel even suggested Laura was a rogue AI built by ancient Terrans specifically to defeat empires through humiliation. The theory gained traction. The meme that detonated galactic culture, however, was a still image. Laura, seated, one brow arched, lava lamp bubbling beside her, holding the pink pen like a dagger. The caption read, "Sign it or I unleash the lawyers." That phrase alone was scrawled on banners during planetary protests. Political rivals across the galaxy accused one another of pulling a Laura. Children played a new virtual game called Cease and Desist, Blackstone Edition. Laura, on the other hand, returned to her modest government cubicle in Newark Station. The coffee machine hadn't been cleaned. Her inbox overflowed. A sticky note on her desk read, "Remember to reschedule dentist." Nothing had changed, except everything had. The President of Earth requested a private meeting. She refused until he agreed to send her a pizza. The diplomatic corps begged her to write a manual on her methods. She handed them a pamphlet titled, "How to Weaponize Your Attitude Without Losing Your Health Insurance." Still, something itched under her skin. A quiet disquiet. Late at night, she sat on her apartment balcony, lava lamp at her side, watching distant stars blink behind clouds. She wasn't gloating. That wasn't her style. But there was something unfinished. Something just beyond the edge of celebration. Her door buzzed. She opened it in slippers and a hoodie. Slarvok stood in the hallway. Not a projection. Not a hostage message. Him. In a dark civilian cloak, clearly tailored off-world. And a look in his eyes that was neither defiant nor submissive. Merely tired. "Nice travel get-up," she said. "Lose a bet." "I came unarmed," he said. "Wise." They sat in silence on the balcony. She handed him a beer. He accepted, awkwardly holding it with 3 of his 6 limbs. "No security detail?" she asked. "Your planet frightens them." "Smart kids." He looked up. "I've been stripped of my titles. I now teach diplomatic strategy to cadets." She raised an eyebrow. "You teach how to lose. I teach how not to repeat mistakes." Laura took a sip. "So why are you really here?" He stared out at the stars. Because we couldn't understand it. The surrender? No. You. She tilted her head. We calculated everything. Your fleets, your economy, your tech. We estimated your military strength and your political will. But we missed the variable. You're saying I'm an X factor? I'm saying, he said slowly, that you were the counterforce we didn't believe existed. Not because of your species, but because of your audacity. Laura gave a small, humorless laugh. You ever think we're all just winging it? That the universe is held together by duct tape and denial? Slarvok didn't smile, but his eye stalks twitched, a mimicry of human amusement. And glitter. She nodded. And glitter. He finished his drink. I don't expect forgiveness. She shrugged. I don't expect consistency. We're human. He stood. Will you come back? Not unless you start conquering again. I meant to the Empire. As a teacher, advisor, consultant. She blinked. You want to hire me? He bowed his head slightly. I want to learn how not to fail again. From you. She stared at him for a long moment. The offer was absurd, unthinkable, hilarious. And for that reason, she didn't dismiss it outright. I'll think about it, she said. He left without fanfare. She watched him disappear into the misty New Jersey night, where the smell of rain mingled with exhaust fumes and the faint aroma of fried food from the 24-hour diner downstairs. 3 days later, the Galactic Peace Summit convened on Earth by unanimous vote. Laura refused to host it in Geneva. Instead, she chose an abandoned roller rink in suburban Pennsylvania. It was tacky. It was cramped. The carpet still glowed under blacklights. But it was hers. Delegates from 96 systems arrived. Dignitaries, warlords, economists, and former enemies, all in one space with bad pop music and the scent of old nachos. Laura stood at the center in a power suit with shoulder pads so sharp they could slice steel. Welcome, she said. The peace treaty is simple. Don't be jerks. Someone laughed. Then another. It became a ripple of catharsis. The tension cracked, and for once, diplomacy wasn't fearsome. It was human. And when the treaty was signed, the crowd cheered, not for the end of war, but for the woman who made peace feel real. In the weeks that followed, the roller rink was declared a galactic historical site. The treaty, now known as the Blackstone Accord, became the standard for interstellar law. Law schools across star systems offered entire courses on the Laura Doctrine. Students were graded on SAS retention and binder organization. Laura declined interviews. She declined fame. Instead, she returned to her cubicle, put on her headphones, and listened to C+C Music Factory while reviewing diplomatic case files. But deep in the uncharted fringes of the galaxy, something stirred. A signal. A language not spoken in eons. A code once used only by the first warlords. The Reptiloid Alliance. Ancient. Vast. Silent for 1,000 years. Until now. Their signal was brief. Monotone. New variable detected. Human woman, Laura Blackstone. Potential threat level. Systemic. The message was intercepted by Earth's orbital watchtower. It triggered one alarm. Just one. But that alarm reached the desk of the president in under 5 minutes. He read it, sweating, and made a call. Activate contingency protocol. The secretary paused. Which one? The Laura protocol. Are you sure? Yes. Across Newark Station, a message blinked across Laura's ancient desktop monitor. We've got a situation. She cracked her knuckles, grabbed her lava lamp, and slipped her heels back on. And as the stars blinked with uncertainty once again, the galaxy knew only one thing for sure. If Laura Blackstone was coming, someone, somewhere, was about to sign another apology card. And this time, it might come with sprinkles.